if we just get your initial thoughts on that one.
I'm delighted, 3 points. Technically, I'm not sure if it's an away game. Don't really know a lot of the context. But, fantastic to beat, a team that was top of the table. I think boys defended very well today. I think the two big factors that kind of took away from the game was the pitch. Very dry, very sticky. It affected us in terms of what we wanted to do with the ball, and it also affected them. They're a very good transition team, and they will gas after their second or third counter attack. And I realised, this game is going to be a bit of a grind. And the heat as well. I think the heat. I didn't realise how hot it was, even though it's 26, 27. It zaps you down on the side. So I was actually worried about half an hour. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to make all these changes? Because I had some players with niggles, didn't have any fullbacks. I had some injuries and was playing wing backs, and then so credit to my coaching staff as well. We were thinking on the run, and it worked out quite well. So I'm very happy with that.
Just on the pitch there, can you just talk us through that? Is it just overuse or the conditions, or what do you think?
I think it's a mixture of the fact that obviously there's been a bunch of games on it, and I think it's very hard to maintain it from the next day. But I think the heat basically zapped the water out of the pitch very quickly. Once they water at the start, it was okay, but again, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I probably counted about 10 people falling over in the first 15, 20 minutes. I've never seen so many uncharacteristic turnovers from both teams, especially if you think about how we played last week and how Victory played last week as well. I'd like to think both like to keep the ball. So, but again, it was one of those games. Boys dug in deep. They were very, very committed, well structured. The belief is there, so I was very happy.
We just had Patrick Kisnoro in here saying he felt like Victory were on top for most of that game. Is that the way you saw it?
Depends what you define as on top. I mean, on top for me is having clear chances. I think Josh, he made one big save in the first half towards the end. And again, they had a lot of moments where they were running into the half space, but again, they weren't really finding the cutbacks. They were overhitting crosses and so on. And for a large part, we give teams the ball when we feel like that's not their strength, so that we can catch them and, off guard a little bit. I mean, if you look at all of Victory's games prior to this game, all their goals came from transition, not build up. I mean, maybe one or two, maybe taken out of context, but we feel as though when the play breaks and they can throw numbers forward with, Reno, Valupale, Arzani, these sort of players, very dangerous. It's a carryover of last year as well. But if you take that away from them and, eliminate the space, the opportunity, then they have to build up. They have to become a build-up team. So, if you work on one thing, 1 week, and then all of a sudden you're asked to do another thing, if you don't train it well, okay, it might look like they're on top, but if they execute it well, then maybe, you could say that, but I didn't feel that.
Just a word on Costa, that goal there, obviously, really huge moment. Just comment on his performance today.
Fantastic. I was saying on the interview before, we spoke maybe 5 minutes before he scored. I moved him over to the left, one because Matt Sheridan was struggling, and I felt Collar on that side wasn't really adjusting well with the defending low, and I put Marco there, and I thought, okay, maybe they're a little bit gassed, so I said, Costa, you need to come onto this side, and I also said, then square up 1v1 with Garia for a large part, and we worked on, prior to the game, that if we baited to one side, pulled the fullback across from the other side, that we could isolate 1v1. And to be fair, Marco did unbelievably well to break the line, and Costa just found himself in that situation. So I was stoked.
Just seemed like at halftime you changed the defensive shape a little bit to a back four. Sheridan went to left back and then pushed Nathan higher.
Yeah.
Corbin right back. What was the thinking behind that?
It's going to be a long answer. So, all right. So I'll give context. So I planned to play with a 4 this week, and then Suts picked up a niggle, so he was out. So then I was like, I needed to work out two big things: how I was going to exploit their high fullbacks, or when one fullback rotates in and the winger goes inside. So I felt, all right, I'll put 2 fast young players as wing backs, and we've played a 5-3-2 all season, and I think what ended up happening in that first 20, 25 minutes, we kind of got pinned a little bit. It was probably a mixture of both, maybe the nines not working down as much and us stepping out with the wing backs. So I didn't mind carrying on like that. I just felt we weren't going to create really a lot, So in the second half, I was like, all right, if I go to a 4, we'll have more balance. We'll have a wider player ready to win the ball. So against Mariners, I don't know if you noticed, we had 3 players countering as opposed to when you do a 5-3-2, you only really, it's the 2, but a lot of the times they're getting blocked. So I changed it. And then, to be fair, I thought Corbs did very well at right back. He was very aggressive on the front foot, very hard for Arzani. He got subbed. I think he got subbed. Yeah, he got subbed, which is indicative of how well Corbs actually played. And to be fair, that's really his first game. And I just felt going to a 4-4-2 in the second half, we were able to block their sixes coming out, push him wider, making it harder for them to pick us off, especially with the 9 off the line, which is their striker. So I thought it worked well. But again, you can have all the best tactics and formations, whatever. If the intent of the players are not there and the willingness to run and work hard, it doesn't mean anything.
Do you think it helped you in possession a little bit as well? Because I felt in the first half that Costa was had to drop really deep.
Yeah.
Even if you beat the press and then you'd work it wide, and then he's having to kind of cover that ground to join the attacks. Do you feel that kind of helped?
Yeah, for that reason. Yeah, you need an outlet, especially if you want to hurt teams that want to play expansive. I mean, they build up in a 3-2-4-1 for large part, and then sometimes the second 6 steps in, and they're like a 3-1-5-1 almost. Which is like, it's if you can catch them, they're only resting with 4 players. So if you can put some wide players, for example, on the opposite side, you can really hurt teams. Yeah.
And just the concept of Unite Round, you wouldn't think a team from overseas would have so many fans here compared to a club like Victory, who one of the big teams in the league. Good weekend for Wellington, 2 wins, men's and women's. Tell us a little bit about the fans and their presence in a round like this.
I always say we have the best fans, and I don't say that because I'm trying to big note the club or I'm doing fan service. But I'll give you a bit of insight. We in COVID, the club was going through hard times in terms of we were away from home. We didn't know whether or not the club would really survive on the back end because if COVID extended, and it's very hard financially for the league to support. But we had games. Every game for those 2 COVID years, doesn't matter if it was like 50 people in the crowd, 30 would be our fans. Be the little corner of yellow, guys from Yellow Fever, just loyal fans. And I always, that always stuck with me because, again, the game is about the fans. And like you saw today, there were heaps of them, nice, they're loud. We had heaps of the derby before. We're starting to build momentum again in terms of what we're about and so on, and hopefully bring some more of those loyal fans back. But but Victory are the same. They have a good fan base as well. Sydney FC last night, you saw with Wanderers. It's good for football. I mean, I'd love to see those games of 30,000 last night for every game. It'd be great.
Just on Josh in goals. A couple of weeks on from he made that mistake in the derby, but he came up pretty big late on with that free kick here. How nice is it for him to just have that moment?
That's great. Look, we all make mistakes. The thing is, I make the most mistakes. I'm not gonna never ever punish him. He's doing exactly what we ask of him. And you see, he bounced back last week. He was fantastic. Today there were a couple of opportunities where they were 3 players stepping through. He held the ball, showed some discipline, and for me, that's being very brave. Because the easy thing to do is, to get nervous, overthink it, and no, I'm proud of him. He's Ruben Parker, our goalkeeper coach, has done very well on the mental side with him as well, and he'll keep growing.
Just on the pitch, what do you reckon the solution is there if we're going to do Unite Round into the future? Is it more than one ground? Is it not playing games at 1:30? What?
Yeah, I think playing at 1:30. Look, it's hard to forecast what the weather's going to be, but I would say, in Spain when they have the derbies at 11 o'clock, and there's 2 leading games at 7 and at 9. and the quality of the football, the lead up is great because heat and the pitch never become an issue. And I think sometimes we, as a league, we need to factor in, and I'm not saying to start at 11, I'm just saying that, you know, maybe we can start at a later time slot. Like if we had a game yesterday at 6 and the derby was at 8, I know the turnaround's too quick. Maybe the quality of the game is at a higher intensity, and people that watch, you know, enjoy that.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, guys.